Hello everyone, my name is FlareBlitzed and we have returned back to the horror visual novel known as The Letter, continuing with Ashton's perspective. Though, as good as that thought is, I push all of it into the back of my mind as I step out onto the pavement and join Isabel in my car. Tonight I can't stay distracted. Except for a few half-hearted attempts at getting some kind of reaction from Isabel, the drive to BRC is a quiet, awkward affair. More so the half-long wait. The hour-long wait for nightfall is in a giant car park. Even with only the two of us, without any suspicious bystanders loitering in the vicinity, the place is rife with tense energy. Only a matter of minutes now. Minutes. Nevertheless, the ticking seconds do not take away the edge, and for the fifth time since we've arrived, I reach out and fiddle with the radio. Adjusting and turning the knobs with no real purpose is a nervous quirk I've developed and never bothered to correcting during stakeouts. With the lack of a friendly conversation to distract, I have nothing else to keep my mind occupied. What else is there for me to do? The person I could usually count on a casual out-of-the-blue chat refuses my attempts at starting one and remains stubbornly taciturn. Ash, out of it. If you have something to say. The way she quickly falters into silence after, in spite of the turn she takes, though, it makes me doubt if she really means anything she's telling me right now. She hasn't even glanced my way since our wait has started. Having second thoughts, you can still back out if you want. We're just going to my office. Why should I? Dunno. You can get into trouble. Maybe. This isn't exactly illegal. Scope BRC out. See if the real estate company has any more information that may be of help. That's the plan. There still might be some logical explanation, a human element behind this. Or is it a curse? Nothing's certain at this point in time. The only way to find out is to investigate. Things about Cooper, things about the other agents assigned to the Ermengrade Mansion. According to Isabel, it's the last property the victims have worked on. Sure, I can also check the station for full reports. See if I might find something new or if someone else has caught anything that had slipped my notice. That's the easy, semi-legal way. But I don't want to bump into Chief right now. The guys at the precinct will definitely throw me one as soon as they see me on his orders. Someone else has probably filed it under the Wrights case too for further inspection. I'm not the only one working on it after all. After those are off limits to me now. Yeah, no matter what authority I have, I'll have to break into my own precinct if I want to so much as to take a peek at anything. Not that my plan right now is any better, I'm just breaking into a different place, more or less, with a civilian to boot. The latter still doesn't sit well with me, it never will, especially if this might put her in a very tricky position afterwards. She's been very careful when it comes to her work, almost a model employee, as people would say. Wonder why she's been throwing caution to the wind now. I'm not an employee here, I'm not supposed to be looking for any confidential stuff only people like you are privy to. If you mentioned earlier that this is your plan, I might have had enough time to think about it. I already promised to help if you need access to these files. I didn't think you'd want to see them this soon and in this way. Besides, the same thing goes for you, right? You're taking off your case. Won't you get in trouble with your boss? Honestly, it's a toss-up between breaking into her office or into the Wrights Mansion. News of BRC's downsizing and rumours that it might be going under isn't exactly restricted info. Even someone of Isabel's position within their company is aware of it. If that's the case, I'll have an easier time getting in here first. After all, why would someone want to break into a realty company? Been here many times before anyway, for a few casual hits when I wanted to bug a scaredy cat. Over the years, I've more or less grown familiar with their security setup and how badly staffed their personnel is. Plus it's an old building. Means their access points protocols are old if not outdated. Still, I can do this on my own, you know. Really? And how were you even planning to get into our office without an access card? Please explain. Well, I was going to pry open the card reader and use a gecko. You're a hopeless case. I really want to know why no one has locked you up yet. Yet you're hoping me this will, willingly. I don't think that will sit well with the Philippine ambassador either. Chances are you'll probably get deported the minute they find out. Low blow, I know. But dissuading her is worth a shot whilst she can still turn back. It's not like I don't have any means to get into the place unnoticed. With or without her, I have a way. At least I have a reason to be snooping around. My badge and rake can speak for me in case things go south. You? For a passing moment it seems to work. A hint of panic and hesitation flashes across her features when she looks to me with searching eyes. Then, unexpectedly, it dissolves. Not behind a film anticipating, but underneath a telltale gleam from steel and iron. I'm not sure what she says exactly or what she's hoping to find in the short while she holds my gaze. All of it merely goes unspoken, and no longer than a minute later, she simply averts her attention back to the window, trying it once again at some point outside. Isabel, please, now's not the time. It's too late for that, Ash. Give it a rest. An appeal spoken in a voice too harsh coming from her, perhaps unintentional, perhaps one that's already too exhausted of everything going on lately. It's hard not to concede when she takes on that tone, and soon, despite myself, I sigh. Tucking away every concern I've been lugging around, in favour of trusting her on this, according her the same confidence she has implicitly given me all this time. Okay, alright, if that's what you want. And don't worry, I didn't mean what I said earlier. I won't let anything happen to you. Her lips briefly turned up into a smile, though none of the cheer it's meant to express reaches her eyes. Just get this over with, okay? Everyone should be out of the office by now. A fleeting exchange, but somehow the uncertainty in her posture makes me wonder if she intended it as some kind of comforting gesture. For me or for her, she deprives me out of the opening to find out. Immediately, without saying another word, she exits the car while I leave scrambling and chasing after her. She's already at the side entrance, a hand raised on the card reader beside her, and another poised to push the door open when I catch up to her. Whatever doubt there has been in her face a while ago, it's gone, concealed, hidden neatly away during the short walk between the building's entrance and the car park. Seeing her like this makes it easier to believe my worries are unfounded, that things might go smoothly this time, except nothing ever does, and short of stepping into the building's lobby, a different voice blasts from the nearby intercom, gruff, still rough with sleep. A man likely in his late 40s to early 50s speaks from the other line, possibly the guard currently assigned to the night shift. And where do you think your kids are going? It's late. Most offices in the building have already closed up shop for the weekend. He seems friendly enough, though one can't really tell from his voice alone. He might be the weary sort, for all I know. Keeping an unconcerned face and aloof air won't hurt, until I figure out how to wiggle us out of this situation. Just come back on Monday if you have important business. But from the way Isabel's face brightes up, it looks like things are getting through it won't be too much of a task. She appears familiar with him. He's probably been working here for a few months already. Then, I'll give it about 4 to 6 months max. Otherwise, he wouldn't have recognized Isabel, or me. At first glance, I haven't shown my face here since I've been assigned to the firm case a year ago. In the first place, none of their security officers ever lasted a year in service. The longest was around 7.5. I'll give this guy a round of that before he gets fired or finds a better paying job. For the moment, his too friendly attitude is almost a gift. Hey Seb. Oh ho, look what we have here. Been a few days since I last saw that ponytail in here, Santiago. Close enough. Wait, don't tell me. I'll get it right this time. Sanchez. You were close to the first time. Dress. I swear it's on the tip of my tongue. I just need a hint to remind her. I take it back. This geezer's not going to last past this month. He can't even remember a regular employee's name. Alrighty. I'm sure of it this time. Satelian. Still a ways off, Seb. Isabel, we don't have all night. I know. Just let me handle this. Sorry, Seb, some other time. We're in a bit of a hurry. I just need to get a few things from my cubicle. Important work stuff, you know. Is it okay if we drop upstairs for a sec? Oh, absolutely. Go right ahead. As long as you have your access card with you, we're good. Not sure if I'm allowed to let your boyfriend in, though. Who, me? My what? Your boyfriend. The guy with you, isn't he? It's a fair observation if I do say so myself. Needless to say, the silence that descends is both uncomfortable and terribly awkward, although the latter's probably coming mostly from me, because the next second Isabel laughs. Light, uninhabited and full of mirth, more than the ones I've heard from her lately. A comforting sound, really, after seeing her in such a dour mood since this morning. Even as all of it subsides into a mere chuckle sooner than I like. Oh, no, he's definitely not my boyfriend. She might as well set it on fire and reduce it to a dust while she's at it. Frankly, the number of no's in that sentence alone is a bit too much. Christ, one would have been enough to get the message across. Did you really have to put it that way? That's impossible. Stop being funny, Seb. I'll go on ahead, okay? She quickly scuffles inside with nothing more than a small wave. The last strain of her amusement filters through the door before it closes, leaving behind an even more awkward atmosphere for me to wade through. It would have been bearable if I didn't have to suffer through a stranger's amusement. Alas, woe is me. Not with boyfriend, but close to it. Mind your own business, kids these days. Good to see her up and about, though. Thought for sure she'd up and disappear like the others. Excuse me? Oh, you noticed up in the news. You mean what happened with Rose Cooper? If I'm going to be stuck here with him for a while, I might as well try to gather as much intel as I can. He might just be beguiled, some with no real authority, but most of the time people like him are the ones who know more than they let on. A few carefully worded phrases are usually enough to get them talking, so long as you appear friendly and pretend like you're not smart enough or too interested. Yeah, but even before that, we got a couple of good blokes we never saw again. Really, they could have just resigned for all you know. Dunno, only catch tidbits of stuff from over there. Though seriously, I heard the bunch is going to get flushed soon, but there's no excuse for anarchy. Figures why Bossman has been in an awful temper these past months. They've managed to strike a good deal with a mansion in Alsam, right? They didn't do the trick? Didn't seem like it. The bloke shouting like no tomorrow again. Wasn't very pleased when Gertie called for and asked for another leave today afternoon. Gertie? Isabel? It's not too surprising, considering she's already been gone for 3 days. Now she's asking for another. Not that it's a bad thing. It's within her rights as an employee, but Isabel rarely uses her work leaves. Yeah, poor Izzy, if you ask me. She found him a buyer for that mansion after all. The least he can do is be considerate to her after a family member's passing. Wait, what? The rumours surrounding BRC Rose Kuma, missing action employees, all of it ceases to matter in that instant. Almost on instinct, my eyes zero in on the intercom speaker, as if staring daggers at it will show me the man behind the voice, so I can see the truth in his face myself. Oh, you don't know? Know what? Nothing. I shouldn't be the one you're asking. You know, things might get a bit boring here. No one really wants to hear what a poor old guard wants to say. Why don't you just go after her? As long as you're not looking to create trouble for me, it won't be a problem. You aren't here for that, right? He's lucky I'm not here to hurt anyone. If I were someone else, someone with ill intentions, he might not be smiling at the end of the day. Well, no, but I'll go on and unlock that side entrance for you, then. Just don't forget to turn off the lights before you both leave, okay? Hey, wait a second. What do you mean by... He cuts off the connection before I could finish, and the rest of my question dies in my throat. Soon the latch clicks at the nearby side door swings open, waiting for me. This sounds a bit fishy. The guard, Seb, a stilt man wearing a uniform still too loose for him, waves me over from the gap before he disappears behind the station again. Just my luck, here I go. I'm going to have to count on whatever Isabel brings with her. Although, no matter how much I want to feel happy, something else has already taken a firm seat in the forefront of my mind. Is that why she's been acting not like herself today? Since when? Of course, as I step into the building, I'll try to push all these questions as far as I can. I need to focus. Work is work. No time to think about other stuff when we might have a bigger problem at hand. But if what I've heard is exactly what I think it is, if it's a sign of things to come, honestly, I don't feel too good about that. It's a quiet ride up to the 17th floor, where the BRC main office is. Seb has been kind enough to switch the guest's elevator's power on, just as I'm about to head for the fire exit stairs, which is a welcome relief. I'm an active guy, but stairs? I don't want to tire out too quickly, in case things get ugly. There probably won't be any trouble with the building this quiet, but you never know. Besides, this whole place still feels eerie this time of night. Lights are good when you're walking alone. The occasional thought of ghosts lurking about certainly doesn't help. Though there is no wind, I swear I can hear whispering. Every shadow is a suspect, and with the low light, every time I see my reflection is a daunting affair. I have to firmly remind myself until proven. Those are still just stories. Worst thing can happen. No need to scare myself with whatever image my head conjures. I have a mission. Going about it as calmly as I can means fewer mistakes. Though I sure am gutsy, especially what I'm doing. I'm breaking a lot of laws here. I'm also putting Isabel in a lot of risks. Best thing that can come out of it is that Isabel's right, that this whole fiasco does point to the curse, and I make sure nobody dies to the damn thing. Unfortunately, one person has already died, by the name of Mary Ann. Worst case scenario, 1. Someone finds that Isabel's involvement in this and her boss fires her. 2. I find evidence that will implicate BRC or Luke Wright in a crime, and my meddling, if I'm careful enough to hide our tracks, makes it inadmissible in court. Or is it the other way around? Both certainly don't sound better than the other, though right now the latter seems very enticing to wish for. In the first place, this whole deal with curses is crazy. I'll be honest, I'll strongly prefer losing my job or facing Wrights over some spirit or ghost or whatever it is all my friends have claimed they've seen. At least if there will be problems with the former, I can always work around it. Isabel can also find a better job. BRC never did pay her properly despite her efforts. Fighting off a phantom, how does that one even do that? Nope, guns probably do not even work on them. Exorcisms might though. Do guns even work on them? Probably not. I'm crazy just going here, but what choice do I have? I can't just say, oh hey chief, you know about the strange incidents lately? It's probably a curse or a ghost or something like that. Yeah, not going to happen. There's no proof in that, and it just sounds hysterical when you say it out loud. It's probably just more of a joke than anything serious. This whole thing has already spiraled out of our hands. This is simply damage control. Working with that I have, and I can still do. Get to the bottom of this and see how I can fix this whole mess. If I do it without anybody knowing, without leaving a trail, all the better. Good thing that's what I'm good at. And easy way in. What I'm not and would probably never will grow better at is finding the proper words when a stitch calls for it. There's a reason why people never ask me to deliver bad news. The A part doesn't need to be there. Whether it's an accident or informing spouses of their deceased loved ones. Unless of course the situation is really dire and no other officer is up for the task, but those times are few and far in between. Regardless, it's an unspoken rule even amongst my friends. Ashton Frey and his terribly blunt mouth should be kept from getting out of these kind of talks. I agree, more often than not. I've never liked doing so. So anyway, it always leaves a horrible sinking feeling in my stomach. Something I'll likely drown out with a few drinks at a pub, and I hate drinking. However, seeing her small form beyond those glass doors, it's difficult not to try. Though her face is turned elsewhere, her eyes focus solely on the papers littering the table in front of her, and entirely different weight lines her shoulders. Heavier, burdened with grief a lesser person would likely cave from. But Isabel's never one to yield. She's stubborn to a fault like that. So she pushes through because it's the only thing she's known. It's the only thing life back home has taught her. All these years, in the 5 she's been with us, the pain of being away from her family is something she has never failed to carry with a smile. People who have never seen beyond those grins and her cheer will never know. Now she's attempting to accept as if everything's normal. Rebecca's probably not aware of this. I get it. We have other problems at hand. I've done the same thing plenty of times after all. Yet it's all in her eyes when she glances up as I give the door a few light raps. She wastes no time in leaving her work and opening it for me, though a look of confusion understandably passes across her features when she takes in my presence. Seb let you in? The rough edge in her voice rings a whole different tone in my eyes now that I am aware why, but knowing is different from hearing it straight from her. I can't simply bring this up, can I? It's never a topic suited for casual conversation, inappropriate amongst other things. I doubt she'll want to talk with me about it. If she hasn't told Zach or Rebecca, I'm ready to bet she hasn't told anyone yet. As much as I want to help her through with this, there's a distance between us I'll never be able to cross, and admittedly, it won't be there if it wasn't for me. Sorry. Perhaps if I've been more honest years ago, less of a coward, I might have been able to. Figures I can't even do that for someone I keep telling myself I care deeply about. What can I say? I'm a very charming person. To a rock, maybe. Despite myself and the circumstances wherein a soft chuckle manages to slip, this is the closest we can get to it, I suppose. The light banter, the fleeting glances, or sometimes the long bout silence. The small things. It's enough. For me it is, because even without words, there is comfort in them. With her, it's easy. Must be a pretty cool rock then. Get over yourself. Hey now, I deserve some slack here. Today's supposed to be my day off, and yet here I am, helping you out. Helping by standing at the door? Well, you're not exactly letting me in. Despite what she says, she moves to block me when I try to enter. Doesn't seem to have any plans for allowing me inside their office, either, unless I force my way through. Not that I'll do it to her, but she must have been expecting this. The second we walked up the building's entrance, counting a night shift guard to bar me from the place. It's reassuring to know she's somehow worried about me, although it's a bit misplaced at the moment. Besides, her concerns aside, I can't really let her get into the thick of things about me, not with all the problems on her plate right now. Isabella, seriously Ash, Seb might get into trouble for this. You might get in even bigger troubles with your own boss. And you're not? We already talked about this back at Zachery's, it's out of a question. At least do it for Seb, please. He's a really nice guy. With the way things are going here, he is... On that I agree with her. Seb's not such a bad fellow for the short talk we had. Might be a little careless with his job and talks too much, but he means well. I hate to see a guy leave here with a bad record in case something goes wrong. However, the anxious look she shoots back at the papers she's left on the table brings an even bigger worry. Did you find something, aside from what you told me about yesterday? No, not yet, I'm not sure. I haven't started going through the files we've had in the records room, just the ones they handed to me and Rose. Let me see. Wait, Ash? Isabel, I already promised you that no one's going to get in trouble after we're done here, even Seb. I'll make sure we'll leave this place clean. Her hesitance still there, a split second of indecision as she tries to form an argument. Eventually, when nothing comes to mind, she steps aside. Okay, but we can't take the original files out of the office, clear? Not even a single sheet. We'll just have to make a copy. Don't worry, that's the plan. Yes. Never ever make it seem like there are less papers in the office than there was the day before. It appears to reassure her a nod, then shortly she gestures for me to follow, leading me to her workstation, a belt with a little reluctance in her step. Passing the sea of cubicles, I can't help but take in everything in their office, a force of habit for most of the part. As far as I know, BRC Luxburn used to own this whole building. Offices in several floors once upon a time, with real estate was still a lucrative business for the company on this side of the country. Then competition showed up and suddenly everything's not so good anymore. It only got worse as the years went by, or so according to the rumours. Years later, the whole branch is just as floor, despite what the huge sign in the building facade implies. Frankly, it's not too hard to believe when one looks at the state of this room right now, almost empty in every sense of the word. Not only because it's beyond business hours, but most of the cubicles are devoid of any signs that speak about their owners. Desks have been cleared out. Not even a single indication of a person who once worked there remains, with exception of the occasional company notice left behind tacked on to the wall. Personal mementos are scarce, as if they've gone through a massive exodus. That'll be downsizing, probably. With what's in the news, what happened to Isabel, it's impossible not to speculate and veer off to more ominous territory. Of course, I shake all of it when she starts holding me the papers she has been looking through earlier. Focus. There's no point in whining or dwindling longer on this. When that's what we're here for in the first place, find out what the real deal is the old-fashioned way, even if it means having to read through a lot of real estate papers and documents I normally wouldn't be interested in. My reluctance aside, Isabel's presence is a whole other blessing. I can't imagine how long this will take if I've pushed going in here alone. Is that everything? What about the documents you mentioned? Still locked up in record rooms. Do you need them now? Bring them here. Everything that has to do with the mansion's sale, even those who worked on it during the renovations, the cleanup, everything, including your mandatory sign-in sheets. It's not a thing to bring up, at least. It elicits a laugh from her before she heads for the records room. She remembers, and no matter how weak the sound of it is from her usual, it's a welcome thing to hear amidst the office's stillness. Takes the edges off, if only for a little while. Reminds me that the Isabel I know is still in there, in spite of the load she visibly carries. She returns minutes later with a thick stack of folders and binders. Ermengrade Mansion, yes. For the next half of the hour, we work in complete silence, while we dig into every property files compiled in the folder. Not easy task considering how thick the whole thing is, but there's two of us. In fact, Isabel does most of the work sorting, separating the contracts, the employee list, and staff we won't need into a meat pile. Just the correspondence and contracts for restoration alone makes up a stack of papers that's an inch thick. Third-party service providers hired for the masonry, radiators, woodworking, plasterwork, slate roofing, and a whole bunch of other things are well documented. Hell, every single contractor working in the project is individually listed, even if they're just there to do the plumbing. It's a high profile and a high cost estate, alright, but with that scope comes the loopholes. Means plenty of rooms to hide something in if there's something fishy going on. All I have to do is read through it, find a pattern that will prove or refute my suspicions, and it doesn't take long. Upon closer glance, despite the original owners shouldering the renovation costs, it will be surprised if they manage to break even on the Ermengrade Mansion. With what the additional expenses for the open house, the commission for their agents, and other overhead fees. At one point, the negotiations to get it listed under BRC's name almost broke down too. Some disagreement about the listing price. The owners wanted to be rid of it quickly as possible while keeping the worth at a profitable level. BRC was insisting on a higher amount, double what the appraiser suggested. This plus the idea that their branch is closing, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that BRC Luxburn really is in the red, and the sale of the mansion could easily have been a desperate move to keep the branch afloat. No wonder the final sale happened as fast as it did. Did you know about this? No, they took it off our hands after I submitted the final documents for the sale. I didn't even know until I read this. I'm not sure if Rose did. I've only been given the keys to the records room after she... Anyway, my point is they kept all the files from me. Rose is the one who compiled everything from our side, and even then she was probably not aware of this, but there's only so much that they let us know. After that, they just told us to wait for our commission and that the legal team would handle the rest. The rumours are true though. Seems so. Shush. This place is just unlucky, going bankrupt while the rest of this rubbish is happening. But this isn't what we're looking for. What we need is the who, the people aside from Isabel and Cooper involved in this business with the mansion, and the how they are now. We can't do much with these contractors. They won't be on file as employees still. Left no stone unturned. Look at their names, see if anything jogs my memory. Get a copy of said names that we could look their contact details up. Check if anything comes from that. Aside from those, we shouldn't dwell on these. Although even with 2 people working through the pile, the whole task still takes quite a while. It's a quarter of an hour later when we put down the papers with a sigh and move on to the clients. After every person, every important detail we may need to have been noted down. The clients next, upon Isabella's instincts, yeah. For that, the sign form from the open house comes in handy. Goes like that, eh? It even gives me a laugh when I spy the fake name I wrote on one of those sheets. Beach Rice, Wildy, Medley Williams, Lauren Stiles, Marley T.Y., Charlie's Lackington's Ash Lee. Okay. It must have been that one, the 5th one. Why did I even pick this name? It sounds so lame. What name? Nothing important. Just focus on those papers you have. We need to finish this soon, before Seb suspects anything. She snatches the paper from my fingers before the thought of hiding it occurs to me. Not that there's much secret in it. Isabel found me that afternoon, anyway. Though perhaps under the wrong assumption of why I'm there. But still. Ash Lee? I've been careless that day, tailing Luke Wright without confirming where they were off to. While the butler's terribly efficient in keeping the Wrights' engagements from the public eye, there are other ways. If only I've given it the time of my day. In retrospect, I've been too eager, too impatient to be done with the case, to find something that'll crack it after a year. Maybe my failure goes as far back as the day of the open house, not during the party last night. Yeah, well, I was pressed for time. Seriously, Ash Lee? Were you even trying? Oh, come on. You didn't even notice I was the one who wrote it down. Of course I wouldn't. Only an idiot would use his real name. It works, though. Admit it. It's genius. Who would have thought, huh? She responds with a roll of her eye, then drops the matter entirely by shoving the paper back to my hands. We lapse back to our respective tasks afterwards, wordlessly skimming through everything. Read, set aside, get another one. It's almost methodical, and in the time we've been here, we both managed to work a rhythm. There's not much time for friendly banter anyway. The clock is ticking down on us. I'm giving it another 30 minutes until Seb realises we've been here far longer than what a simple I need to get myself from my cubicle requires. The more we prolong our stay here, the more difficult it will be to come up with an alibi. Of course, if he's sleeping on the job, it will certainly work to our advantage too. No need to think of excuses that could potentially branch off on awkward. But there will be time to worry about that later. Looking back at the science sheet, I spot Luke Wright and Hannah Wright listed up top. Not that I didn't know about them already, of course, but scanning through the list, a name immediately comes to my attention. Madeline Williams. Is something wrong? Huh? No, what? Just I remember this girl listed here. She frowns, moves her seat closer and takes careful read at the sheet. There's a long moment before she speaks up again. But from the way she tenses, she appears to be expecting the worst already. What about her? She was with me, in the group following Cooper, when we toured the upstairs part of the mansion, I mean. Rather loud one, especially when we took a peek into the attic. She kept talking about the ghost stories the whole tour. But then, do you think she was reported missing 3 days after? There was a racket at the precinct the day her kin filed in. Threats were naturally given at the lack of progress days later. Desperate ones. I assumed at first that the person who wrote Madeline Williams was actually Marianne McClough or whatever her name was. I'm not good with Irish names. Her family's willing to shell out all the cash they can just to find her. To no avail, unfortunately. Officer Benjamin has been in a bad mood ever since he spoke with them. But what can he do? What can we do? He's tied. We're all tied. There's only so much we're able to do. With everything that's been shoved into our hands recently, she still hasn't been found. It's already been a week. Isabel makes no further comment aside from a nod. Instead, she merely sits back on a chair with a distant look in her eyes. her hands balling to a fist in her lap as she struggles with her frustration. Or maybe it's anger. If she keeps at it, she might draw blood, but the moment doesn't last too long, thankfully. Soon her grip loosens and she folds her hands back on her lap. The expression on her face, however, is one I've seen too many times in the mirror. What does one say to a person burdened not by loss, but many, who carries it in her shoulders like a badge of shame? I've yet to find that answer to that myself. Until then, the only way is forward. Press on, see where this might lead us. And despite my own doubts and the uncertainties in this, a cursory glimpse of that look on her face is enough reason for me. I can't just give up. There's too much at stake, too much to lose. With renewed focus I continue, scanning each of the names for any sign of familiarity. If I've overheard any of it in the news or from the reports coming in the precinct. On the third and last sheet I saw another one. Beatrice Wild. One I recall from the newspaper obituaries. Died of a heart attack. A letter of correspondence expressing condolence to her family confirms as much in her files. Pressed away at age 74 in her sleep. She's at that age. It certainly could have been a natural death, right? Because if Isabel's to be believed, I'd like to believe so. But 3 more letters turn up when I rummage through the stack. It leaves nothing more than forbidding feeling in me. They're all addressed to families of clients who have passed away in the past week. Regardless, these go into the pile of things worth looking into after our visit, along with William's info sheet. There are just so many names, so many faces, each one I've seen that day, and here I am wondering if they're all alright. It isn't a selfless thought that brings the question to mind, rather it's the logic that if more of them are still alive, the more people I can choose to question. Nothing's concrete yet, but we're making progress, even though the whole half of it is a bunch of still unfounded speculations. Once done with the signing sheets, I hastily stash it along with a growing pile to my left and pull out as many of the other documents Isabel has already prepared for me. We're working through the employee list now, those who have been assigned to the mansion. Because if Isabel's to be believed, if what she sees and what happened to Rose Cooper's because of that letter, I need to know everyone who has possibly read it aside from the 3 of us. I also need to confirm if they have been noticing strange things too. For all I know, these may have just been a terrible coincidence, although the thought of that starts to diminish as the pile beside me grows. 15 minutes later, the stack too close to my elbow has risen from 5 to 21 different dossiers. Client and employee documentation, people who have been either visited the open house or worked on the property in some capacity since the letter's discovery. Turns out, there have also been 2 more BRC employees who directly handled the mansion aside from Cooper and Isabel. Christian C., Virility Specialist, and Mark Julius Jane Mary, the estate appraiser. This Say guy, he was in custody just the other day. Excuse me? Really? Sir John has been looking for him. He stopped reporting to work a few weeks ago. Are you sure it's the same person? Yep, this is him. Folks at the precinct said they went to his house after a noise complaint. They found him just acting all crazy, had to take him in when he started getting violent. Kept screaming about a woman. Immediately she stiffens. I don't want to bring it up or imply a connection to Isabel's story, but it is exactly what happened. It was driving the guards mad, but he didn't last too long in there. A few hours in, he just started bashing his own head against the wall, and, well, it was messy to say the least. Oh no, we had no idea. Is he okay? HR just marked him as AWOL because none of their calls would get through. He's in the hospital right now. I think they're putting him into a psychiatric ward as soon as he recovers. He's still a bit unstable. Jane Murray, on the other hand, his employee file marks his date of leaving and even his full payment had been given. Along with it, a letter to his family and the appraiser has been found dead in the office. Communication is hush-hush, and there's mention of compensation if they don't talk about it to the media. Inspector Abigail has often scolded me for not regularly reading the reports, but I try to keep up to date as much as I can. When I do, I make sure I'm aware of the gist of what's going on in my city. This has never reached the police's eye or the health and safety executive. Do you know about this guy? One glance at her says everything. They've hidden it from the media. They've kept it from the police. Not surprising, this will also be a secret from someone of Isabella's position in this company. And a nice portrait too. Rose was looking for him last week. We haven't heard anything from him either. Until now. They never mentioned this to us. Business going under and someone dies while working here? Of course they want to keep that mum. It's bad publicity. This whole thing is just getting freakier the deep we dive into this. Nevertheless, I handed the files for Isabel to make a copy of. The pages with names, address and contact numbers will do. We'll start with the ones who live within the city. Sometimes there are things you really can't just brush off as a mere coincidence. In my line of work of office, once a pattern pops up, it's only right to be suspicious. Especially the thing with SY. It hits too similar to the stuff my own friends have been telling me. All of this is a considerably thinner stack than the ones she had brought in, yet somehow the way she hugs the folder close to herself makes it seem heavier, like she's hanging onto it in the same manner one will latch onto a lifeline. Only the noteworthy ones, and those that might still be alive. Might. She doesn't need to know that little tad bit. We can't check the outside contractors, but the guys with a direct communication to BRC and the people who attended the open house should be enough. We don't have time to see how everyone's doing, especially if what you said is true. For a second she appears to argue, then quickly decides against it, hides it away before anyone reads the question in her face. Then, in a too abrupt motion, she turns towards the copier and gets to work. Soon, only the machine's constant thrum fills the dead air around us, while I keep myself busy cleaning up the mess of papers we've made. The lack of talk is awkward, to put it mildly, disturbing at worst. Okay. Usually the journal says something before it actually happens. So will this paranormal thing come to us as well? Okay. To confirm their suspicions, Isabella helped Ashton break into the Briar Realty Corporation's Luxburn office that night. There, the files they found revealed the real deal with the mansion's sale that was unknown even to Isabel, and something possibly more terrible. More terrible, huh? Well, thank goodness for that. I'm glad we have the choice to try and fish that one out of the pocket. Yeah, through this branch tree, we've only had one question so far. Let's see. Common route, story update, common route. That's probably a story update if we pursue this path. The story update would have come through this side if we chose another path beforehand. Story update. Those are probably story updates if we chose the other path. Yeah, there's two of them as well, so they're equally spaced out. Question, no, not common route, question, stretch for truth, do the other choice, that would lead on to that path. Story update, common route, story update. Just lots of common routes and story updates. There's nothing really in the lines of a question. The more we go into the later chapters, the fewer questions and choices we've had, because the previous choices that we made would just flow the story for us anyways. The only time we would probably get a question later on is we've been into a later date in the timeline that we have not yet transpired into. I've gotten so used to letting her babble away whenever it's just the two of us. What she has to say has always felt more interesting than what I can come up with. Never the talker I am, always content in simply listening. I can tell, however, she wants to do more beyond digging through private records and photocopying personal files. She wants to fix whatever mess this is herself, and that desire makes her angsty. But at the same time she's learning how not to be impulsive or stubborn, exactly as I have told her yesterday before agreeing to any of this. Or maybe these so-called changes have always been with her. Dire situations have always pushed people beyond what they're comfortable with after all. to do things they normally won't, to show a side of them that you usually don't. With university coursework, which I experienced for the past 3 years, that's also been a habit of mine. Sometimes leaving things to a point where they would be uncomfortable, but not all the time, just 1 or 2 assignments where I feel like I don't need to do a huge amount of research into to make it work, because mostly I did the academic research, well, most of it beforehand. References mainly, 95% of it actually. To change. It's not something I will ever blame her for. I understand in some odd way. I've been in the same position before, though seeing this happen in front of me only makes it difficult to find the proper things to say. In an atmosphere that's tense and charged, while knowing what might be looming over us, what is left for us to talk about? Certainly not the news. It's not as if there's a lack of effort on my part, it's just that, well, not everything sounds as neatly as it does in my head once the words slip past my lips, blunt as they often are. And sometimes too much effort brings the opposite effect. Yeah, sometimes what I think with Ashton is that he doesn't try and beat around the bush, he just goes through the bush with an honest answer, even if it is blunt. It gets worse when you only realise all of this in hindsight, right after your mouth has already ran ahead of any decency-strung thought. You know, for a house your company seems to be in a hurry to sell, they still made quite a fortune out of it. Look at this, 1, 2, 3, 6? Are you sure they're planning to give your entire share for this? This isn't a small amount, especially given the usual cut, and their accounting department isn't in the greatest shape either. Even if they don't, it's not like someone still needs it. Suddenly, the sound of a copier's cover slamming down echoes through the room, drowning out the rest of her voice, weak as it is. And there's the reason why people don't let me talk. A quiet once again descends throughout the whole room, through denser compared to the ones we shared tonight. Behind me I can still hear movements, sharp and precise, while she feeds the original copies to the machine, probably the last from the ones I've handed her. Then, with one last bleep, all of it stops. Her feet shuffles lightly against the floor when she moves away. Something creaks softly, probably the table. As she settles her weight against its side, by this time an apology is already at the tip of my tongue. It never makes it out though. Barely. Papa's gone, Ash. Oh no. A quiet admission, every syllable spoken under her breath, almost like a secret she has never intended for anyone to hear. But in those few words, in those scant few seconds, everything between us shifts as the gravity of each sinks. Right then and there, something harsh and immovable rises between us. Death is something I'm familiar with. Almost 10 years in the police force, and it's impossible not to be aware of it in some capacity. But this is different than those dead bodies we examined in forensics, a far cry from victims we found on a banned investigation. Those I can easily distance myself from, no emotional attachments, no need for pretenses. I can do the same thing, in fact. I never met the man, I only heard of him from Isabel. What he sounds like when he repents her, what makes them tick, or what his habits are. She has left them for me to imagine. Yet somehow, I still find myself grasping for things to tell her, any word of comfort that'll dull the pain, because even without looking at her, her grief feels palpable enough, her pain an immutable weight hanging over us. I don't know how this would be perceived. Would it be better just stay busy or tell me about him? If we stay busy, that will make us getting out of the office sooner, but if I ask her to tell me about him, then that probably reassures her, but it will take more time to get this process done. Just to stay busy. Just stay busy and you'll be okay. I think that dropped. At least that's the advice I told myself since Mum and Dad called it off years ago. Retreat. Find something else to focus on. turn that little bond of anger, frustration and guilt into something productive, clean, efficient. I'm not harming anyone. It worked for a time. So long as none of my grade or performance dipped below what people have been expecting of me, they left me alone. It's not the best coping mechanism for a teenager, but it allowed me to get by, though perhaps it's not for everyone, least of all her. I recognise my estate the second I look up from my work, and a lot bow to silence from her. The expression on her face is nothing short of anger as she grips the folder between her hands, and she glares at me with intensity that might burn. I said something unforgivable. To her, asking her to bury all of its rings a different meaning. To her, forgetting means a denial. What do you think I'm doing? Do you really think it's that easy? Isabel, all I'm trying to say is that you should concentrate on other things right now. And I'm not. I'm doing my best, alright? I know I got us into this mess, and despite everything, he's gone. I didn't even get to talk to him before the last time we spoke, he was begging for me to go home. He didn't even want me to leave in the first place. Now look where that got us. Look where I got us. Betty, this whole thing has got nothing to do with what happened to your dad. It was unfortunate, but... Ashton, just please stop. I don't want to hear it anymore. Shut up, please. Perfetta, I can't even do this right. The awkward silence we settle into tells enough. Her own reticeness. Her own reticeness, more so, until it all simply becomes unbearable, and half a heartbeat later, all I can do is step away from it, hide like I often will with my own mistakes. Yeah, that probably is the worst thing that could happen. I was just thinking of a more productive site into this account for the time being. While gathering what they found, Ashton accidentally brought up Isabel's... What do you mean? I don't think Ashton did. Alright. Ashton accidentally brought up Isabel's father, who had apparently passed away a day before. Suddenly her reasons to try to fix this mess became clear to him, but in his attempt to comfort her, he only ended up upsetting her further. Hey sir, I gathered everything, the personal files, client documents, sales agreements and contracts, anything my hands can get a hold of from the table. In record time, it's all been stacked in a neat pile, ready for storage, and I'm heading for the records room seconds later. Wherever that is. It should be an easy find, unless this place is a maze of some sort, which I highly doubt. Still beats staying here and seeing the hurt on her face, especially when I know I'm now part of the reason why it's there. Still, an apology is in order before I take my leave. I'm sorry, that was insensitive of me. I don't want her to answer, because honestly I'm more afraid of what it'll be. I stepped on something she values more than anything in this world. Like this, it's easy to see why she has gone such great lengths for her father. Why she left her dreams. Why she went against his wishes, just to grant him another chance at life. This is how she loves, warm, steadfast and unflinching. What right do I have to question that? To tell her to let go, when it's the one thing she has so openly given the people around her all these years. One thing that I always hold true and has no reason to doubt. Others will say it's her warmth that draws people to her, or her cheer. Neither are wrong, but neither is the whole truth to her either. Because those who have never bothered to look beyond the surface will never see it. See her. See someone earnest, someone who has always meant well, abide her underlying stubbornness. In many ways, for a lot of reasons, she's the kind of person I want to be and be around with. The way I am, her forgiveness is more than what I deserve. Except I have no right here. I have no right to hear it at this point in time. Getting the files back to the BRC archives room in a clinch. With the documents in its place on one of the labelled shelves, I locked the door behind me, tugging it twice just to make sure. Now on to the next order of business. Removing the evidence of our little exertion here, or at least, very least the parts showing what we've been doing during the past hour. Either way, can't have our faces plastered on security footage, showing us breaking the law as it were. I'm going to have to wipe the data of Isabel's access card entries too. Surprisingly, finding the security room proves a breeze. What will be tricky is getting inside. The fact that no one has walked in it during the whole time we've been here means the room is either empty or their security's sound asleep. I'm banking more on the former. If they're cutting corners and firing agents, I have no doubt in my mind that they fired the guy stationed in here. If they have anyone watching the monitors in the first place. It's a rather common thing for establishments. Just leave security recording indefinitely and only check the footage if something actually happens. Just to check, I press my ears against the door, listening for a sign of anyone occupying the room. After a long minute of nothing, not even the sound of someone's breathing, I give the door knob a few rattles. Standard lock and key should be easy enough to pick. We have lock pick sets, but those are only to be used if necessary and with such warrant. Even then, it's a skill set rarely needed. Subtlety isn't on a cop's priority if they have authority to search the premises. Bolt cutters and brute force are the favoured methods. If those failed, we'll call a locksmith. Me, I prefer the good old hairpin trick when those options aren't available. Besides, they're easy to hide and store for emergencies. Running my hand through my hair, I pull a pair of bobby pins. 2 of them and I can just about open any standard lock. One makes a lever and the other makes a handle. I won't call it a complex skill, but it certainly takes time and a lot of practice to successfully pick a lock. Good thing I've practiced with them for a bit in my college years. I've learnt more when they're accessible and standard issue for a law enforcement officer. A wiggle here, a click there, and I managed to seize all the pins in the locking mechanism soon enough. With a turn of the knob, the security ropes ripe for the picking. Right, okay, so here's what it is. There's definitely an Isabel on the camera, and 4 of them appear to be out-busted. The room's odour hits me first, a sharp, nausing stench, as if someone has accidentally spilled a grotesque gallon of bleach in the room. When was the last time they opened this place? This place smells awful. Jesus, worse than the forensic labs on a bad day. Probably because of a badly botched effort to clean the place up. Even in the dark, I can spy disgusting stains on the wall. We don't have to try and decipher what they are, though. I don't have time to play is this ketchup or soda right now. But I have this strange gut feeling who the mess might belong to. As expected, no security personnel mans the office's CCTV controls, and the standalone DVR setup is open for anyone. Normally, I'd have a heap of things to say about this sloppy security setup, but right now, the neglectance makes the whole task of erasing evidence easier. It's as simple as going into the menu, searching for a file for tonight's recording, and, well, deleting it. No fuss, no muss. The next one should be the access card data. Hopefully getting into their computer won't be too much of a hassle. Every up to now has been smooth sailing. There has been hiccups, I'll give it that. Though it does nothing to dampen the good mood I'm in. Once I shift my attention to a machine setting next to the DVR setup, all of it went smoothly evaporates. I'm no computer buff, but I can definitely recognize one more than a decade old. Simply looking at it makes me feel younger. I have no other choice, however. With a heavy sigh, I power it up and mentally prepare myself for a slow slug. Slow, apparently, remains an understatement here. It takes a whole 3 minutes for the whole thing to start up. The OS hasn't been started loading. And in my boredom, I started inspecting the live feeds from the cams. Only 2 of them works. One from the view outside, everything seems to be in order, and the other from main space where Isabel. It's a fleeting glimpse. A cursory glimpse, but the sight of it stops me. The image is a bit blurry. But standing there, right in the middle of the room... Yes! One of the cubicles I can make out the form of a person, aside from Isabel. What the hell is... I don't get too far into the line of thought. No few seconds after my words are slipped out, without any sort of warning, while I'm still trying to make sense of what it is... The figure moves. Not across the office floor, but right towards the camera. Gradually as it nears her features grow clearer. Deathly pale skin and hair like ink. Too real and too close. Stands out in stark contrast to the artificial images shown on the monitor. A moment of paralysis hits me when she stops right in front of the camera, like a damn rookie. I go still in the face of danger. Nothing but an old clicking noise and the pounding of my own heart echoes in my eardrums. I definitely haven't been trained to handle the supernatural, and this is one, isn't it? And, oh bleak, her eyes bore into me, the malice in them, piercing, even beyond the screen, is enough to make me go numb. Only the mud crushing to the floor when my hand actually sweeps it snaps me out of a trance, reminding me that I'm not the only one here. Isabel. Her form on the screen suggests she hasn't noticed anything, and I'm the only one witnessing this. In any case, whatever's happening, I have to get her out. Gathering my wits, I quickly reach my phone and undial her, while keeping an eye out on the figure staring behind me. It takes but all 2 seconds before she answers, though there's no time to relieve. Ashton? Did you really have to call me? We're practicing on the same floor. Get out of there. What? Why are you... Out. Get out. I'll meet you in the elevator. Just... You're creeping me out, Ash. Just get yourself out of that place now. I end the call with a click, and without second thought, I back away from the controls from the room, ready to be done with this place. But before my foot even crosses the threshold of any sort of warning, she disappears from the screen. And she comes through the camera. Son of a... Instinct instantly takes over, and my hand quickly reaches for the gun at my side, only to meet empty air. Though authorized, I always leave it in my car, a mistake that costs me a few precious seconds while the paperwork I've brought with me threatens to scatter everywhere at the same time. Gathering them and myself once more, with no weapon to protect myself, my sense of self-preservation kicks in next and I lunge towards the door. I sprint across the office floor without daring to look back. A good time to save would be in order. Isabel's already waiting in front of the elevator by the time I push myself out of that office. Worry creases her eyebrows upon glancing at me, but I don't have the time to answer the question in her eyes. As soon as I reach her, I grab her arm, practically throwing the two of us into the open elevator and slam the button for the ground floor. A sigh of relief escapes my lips when the elevator starts its descent. The clicking noise that seems to announce the ghost's presence fade off into the distance myself. Beside me, Isabel shifts, moving the stack of papers under her arm while she takes in my appearance. Concerns in her eyes. All I offer her is a small gesture of my hand, while I attempt to compose. Breathe. In, out. Why are we in such a hurry? We need to get out of that place. Did you get everything? Yeah, it's all here, but really you don't look so good. What's wrong, Ash? I'll be fine, just... I was in the security room. There, from the monsters, there was a blanking... The reservoir sailor dies on my tongue when the elevator stops and the doors open. Instead of stopping at the ground floor, however, it completely skips and just drops us into a building's basement. There's a moment pause, while we're both taking in our surroundings. Confusion is understandably there. Oh, come on. They should just replace this whole thing. No, I'm quite sure I pressed with the ground floor. Right? But just as Isabel said, this is an old building the elevator always did have problems with when I visited in the past. Probably didn't register it right. Even Isabel becomes so angry when we try to get to her floor, and she'll have to repeatedly smash the button for the elevator to even move. That was always good for a laugh. I wasn't too worried then. All of it completely changes when we hear a clicking noise again from the distance. From the distance beyond the light's reach, echoing in my ears along with the rapid pounding in my chest. Isabel stiffens, her eyes grow wider and her body freezes at the sound. Gingerly, she reaches up to grab the hem of my sleeve and grips it, hard enough, tight enough for her fingernails to dig through the material. If we have a way out, I have no doubt she'd run right this instant. As it is, the only thing she could do is hold on to me, her eyes searching widely for the source of the sound, while I stand protectively in front of her. Ash, did you hear that? Anyone there? No answer. I can hear you moving from here. Show yourself. No response. Only the soft sound of something scurrying around the floor and the walls in slow, deliberate movements, faint, though still audible enough in this hush, until it stops. That's never good for all that. We need to go, Ash. We have to... And then a wail. This time, I'm certain it isn't my imagination. Against my training, my body stiffens. Hands still mid-pressing a button. Eyes waiting for any sort of movement from further back. An ear strained from the sort of a source of a sound. I can't even offer Isabel any reassurance, as much as I hate to admit it. Dread has seeped into every nerve in my body. And the blasted elevator still won't work, no matter how many times my thumbs press on it. This isn't in my training manual. Ash, we need to leave. I know that sound, Ash. Please, get to the elevator. Another series of shuffling against the ground, a laughter, and all of a sudden she's just there. Oh my god, it is small, but it is apparent. Something shiny. A small grotesque forming linger at the far end of the basement and on all fours. Like a twisted spider, she stares at us, a look of hunger in her eyes and venom in the twisted manner she smiles. A glee she has well earned when we're the damn flies that has dropped right onto the spider's web. Ashton, damn it. Then without warning she moves, mocking us with each slow crawl she... Yeah, it is mocking when they do it slowly, isn't it? Knowing we're both at her mercy as she makes her approach. Ashton, the door. But this isn't funny. Our lives are in the hands of a crummy elevator. Our lives are literally hanging between life and death. Whether or not this stupid thing works, we're not going to die here. Not in a damn elevator. Okay. Oh my god. 295. Okay, 1 8 4 5. Damn it. 8 9 2 7 1 1 4 9 8 6. Oh my god, that's too close. Yeah. So in that case, be quick on the button. Oh my god, I'm going to need the keyboard for this because my wire is in the way. So I'm just going to go silent for a little bit and concentrate on the numbers. 1 2. Oh damn it. Okay, good. As if a divine power has heard me swearing up a storm in my head, the doors close just as the thing looms near. Soon, the elevator, the blasted thing, is headed up. Isabel's knees buckle in relief. In 2 ticks, she is hugging herself without any care for a mess of papers and folders she has dropped on the floor in her panic. She draws in one rigid breath after another, each one brimming with nothing but relief. And this is the most I've been tired my whole damn life. Not during training when my superior first asked me to drop 100, not after a stakeout, but after smashing an elevator button repeatedly. I slumped to the ground beside her, worn out, but I don't let myself feel relief again, not until I'm out of here. Isabel seems to be on the same mind as she looks at me. So I find myself sharing a shaky laugh with her. We're okay. We're fine, right? Yeah, we're good. Alive. Blank. We should have taken the goddamn stairs. Twice I've seen it. Twice! I think that's meant to be in there, actually. Twice. If we include the party, unless I'm tripping balls without realising, there's no doubt in my mind that this is actually happening. I seriously don't want to believe it, but with the truth staring at me in the face, it'd be stupidity to deny the reality of the manor. And like that, we are out of the cursed elevator. October 29th is certainly a really busy day for our friends in this timeline. Yes, do you believe it now, Ashton? Ashton and Isabel beat a quick exit after getting what they needed, making sure not to leave evidence of their break-in. On their way out, however, the elevator malfunctioned and dropped a bit in the building's basement parking instead, where a familiar face welcomed them. As soon as the lift hits the ground floor and the door slides open, we hightail out of the building. Seb's slant asleep when we pass by his station. However, in the face of what we've seen, everything I faced tonight, we really couldn't care less who will still see us on our way out. The sooner we get away from this place, the further the better. I'm just not sure if that also means being safe. She almost got us, damn thing. The thing almost had us. Hell, I haven't even sorted anything running inside my head right now. All I can see is her face, her horrid smile as she's about to reach us. It was only by luck that we managed to get the elevator unstuck. Had the blaster thing not worked in the last second, I need some air. Fresh, breathable air that doesn't stink like death and gore all at once. I'm panicking. Christ, losing focus. With another person here, I can't afford that right now. Isabel hasn't said anything, but I know she's more shaken than I am. I can't lose it when another person's dependent on me. Remember your training, Free. Another deep breath as soon as starting the engines and driving us off. After that incident in the elevator, somewhere open would be good. Someplace we won't get trapped. Yep, Luxburn Park during the night time brings a welcome relief, though only by some. The chill that has seeped in my bones is still there, furrowing and unfurling underneath my skin. If I don't move, if I don't busy myself with anything, soon my brain will go haywire. It's the last thing I want to happen when there are plenty of things to do. But this already answers all of it, doesn't it? These deaths. Just how many copies of the letter are out there? Isabel can't have the only one if other people are also getting cursed. Could it be that the one she has shown us is just one of 5? Maybe even more. That whole pass list of 5 theme business is ridiculous, but at this point it isn't. All in all, we found 21 people who might have read that letter, 7 of them deceased, 8 if we count Cooper. And that's only with what we can find right now. We have no idea how the contractors and specialists hired from outside the company are doing, if we are in any way affected. How many more people are suffering? How many are missing? How many are dead? Can I even blame the Wrights for this anymore? If anything, they might be in danger as well. I don't think I could wish a curse upon anyone, no matter how big of a douchebag Luke Wright is. There's also that woman. How do we get out of this mess? How do we get away from her? Ugh. Still so many things we need to look into, yet all my body wants to do is pace, thread the ground and burn out whatever excess energy there is in me. Ashton, I'm dizzy. I'm getting dizzy. Will you sit down? It's the first time Isabel has said anything. She has been sitting quietly on one of the park benches since we dropped here. Better and less distracting than watching her nerve habits. I suppose she certainly seems calm now. Too calm, in fact, for someone who's just seen something terrible. But it's been more than a week for her already. People do get desensitized to things at some point. Even someone like Isabel. Who knows what's going on inside her head, though? Inside mine, there's too many, and none of them would sit still. I'm not going crazy, am I? I saw that. I'm pretty sure you saw that, and I didn't inhale anything weird. Jesus. Isabel, please tell me that wasn't what I'm not expecting. When I turned to her... Okay, so she's forming a smile for once. Barely contained as she hugs her arms close to her body and tries to keep a smile from breaking. You're laughing. You're laughing. Why are you laughing? I'm not quite sure what she has seen in my face, but next second, laughter suddenly bursts out from her. I'm so sorry, it's just that you should have seen the look on your face back there. Yeah, right, sure. I'm not the only one who panicked. You almost ripped my arm off. Yeah, but... Isabel, this isn't funny. That woman almost got us. We could have ended up dead. I know, I'm really sorry, but this is just too precious to miss. You really lost your blank for a moment there. You're trying to get back at me, aren't you? Well, I'm not the one who kept calling someone scaredy cat for years. How does it feel? I'm not scared. Really? Because it doesn't seem that way to me after all. At all. I'm not... Alright, I just don't know what to do right now. Immediately after, the moment passes, replaced by another tense silence. Laughter deep in her lips as everything sinks in, the awareness of a much bigger trouble looming over us. We're in deep blank, and it finally caught us and hit us like a ton of brick. Hit me more than anyone. because she has been warning us of it since day one, and I'm the first person who brushed it off. Despite that, she still reaches out for me, tugging at my sleeve, almost desperately. Her hands are trembling, and there's a tremor in her voice when she speaks. Without the cheer, only fear remains, one that she has been burdened with from the beginning. We're still going to do something about it, right? Not just stand around and let thing get us. Unexpectedly, she leans her forehead against my arm, and her grip on my sleeve tightens. There's desperation in their quiet plea. I don't want to lose anyone anymore, Ash. I wish I could give that promise, but with so many unknowns, so many things I don't understand about this, how can I? Why she still trusts I can do something about this baffles me. It always feels wholly undeserved, considering the way I've treated her. Yet, despite my reluctance, I found myself returning her holding kind, a grasp warm and light enough for comfort. Not a promise, but something close to it. October the 30th, Sunday. Darkness blurs the edges of my vision. Black tendrils twist and coil around my limbs. Soft footfalls echo from the far distance, scurrying, scampering, moving in an odd rhythm. Have we had anything on October the 30th? October 30th? Okay, so we've had Zachery, Rebecca. Okay, so yeah. Moving an odd rhythm with the sharp piercing notes of her laughter, a scream threatens to burst, but my throat closes off. Ever so slowly, a chill saps into every nerve in my body, washing away every sensation in me. Apart from one, there is only fear. Once again, her laughter echoes, a sound both bitter and unforgiving. It is the last thing I hear before she reaches for me. The ground trembles. The world slows to a stop. Morning breaks in a blurry mess of vivid shapes and colours. Oddly, there's no feeling of terror and confusion gripping me, despite the vague images that has driven me from sleep. Awareness kicks in shortly, though slow and sluggish, as I blink away the last remnants of unconsciousness from my eyes. The early morning light already streams from the open windows when the memory sets in and the room finally comes into focus. Isabella's apartment. Pushing myself upright, my eyes wander idly towards her prone form. She's hunched over the coffee table, both her arms under her head, while she continues to rest. Then to the chaos of papers unfolded we left scattered over it, before sleep has claimed both of us. We're bunkered down here last night, after both our nerves have calmed down. Mine, for the most part. Staying together was an unspoken invitation, and anyway, I'm pretty sure neither of us wants to remain alone when there's that woman. Is she still one in the first place? One that we'd normally call a human? Can it still feel guilt? Does it understand pain? Ugh! I'd rather get charged for breaking and entering than mess with whatever that thing was any day. Not that thinking about this still matters when all our lives are in her hands. She's dangerous. If we don't do anything about her and this curse, we'll definitely be pushing daisies soon. I can't let that happen. I dialed on this long enough. Left all my friends in harm's way after the warnings they've all given me. Besides, beneath the terror and the adrenaline that keeps me running, knowing what lies ahead for Isabel makes it hard not to take action. The paper sitting on the edge of the table calls my attention. At this, light against my hand when I reach it. It has caught my eye the night before, but with the lot we still need to go through, I've simply ignored it. The logo emblazoned at the top of the page, however, provides this paper a whole new meaning. Not for me, but definitely for her. A scholarship grant, huh? I only ever heard her talk about this once or twice, completing her degree, that is. She rarely goes about it in great detail, preferring to keep it to herself. Perhaps it's the fact that she thinks she's already too old to be chasing after it. It has been 5 years after all, but I've caught enough snippets of conversation between her and Zach to know she has never given up on it. Despite how things have panned out with her father, she's one step closer to this part of her life. As silly as this may sound, coming from a friend, I like to give her the chance to have this. Whether this means stepping out of my comfort zone and figuring what the deal with this curse is, I'll do so. If only to see that same smile from her from that time again. These days, the only moment she seems to show it is when she sleeps. When she's asleep. Like right now, no matter how uncomfortable she appears, a smile of my own forms. Despite this, when I glance at her sleeping form again, she hasn't moved since, her shoulders rising and falling in a slow, even rhythm with her breathing. You won't think she has any problems this way, if only they were true. Sighing, I'll place the paper back where I've gotten it carefully so I won't accidentally wrinkle or damage it in some way, and finally push myself off my makeshift bed. Isabel shifts when I carry her off from the floor and on over to her bed, but doesn't wake, simply tucks herself comfortable under the covers I put over her. Briefly though, she mumbles something to herself and draws in another deep breath. Becca, Ashton's been dumb again. She drifts back to a deeper state of sleep after, like it hasn't been interrupted by the slightest movement earlier. But the small smile on her lips remain. One day I found myself returning in kind. Who sleeps like a rock now? Okay, from the earlier conversation about the rock, yeah. It's better this way. Better to leave her to her dreams for the moment, which I hope are better than the ones I've had. She'll have to worry about other problems later when she wakes up. For now, this will be another thing I don't want to take away from her. A moment of respite, no matter how fleeting. She deserves it. After everything she's been put through, well, I've put her through. In the meantime, I still have other people I need to check with. Isabel will definitely get in a tizzy if I don't check on them. Cold Luxburn air meets me upon stepping out the hallway. Okay, we're going to leave it there, folks, and unfortunately I'm not going to be able to be back on the letter for a few days, well, 2 days to be exact, for reasons I would prefer not to say here and there. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and we shall see each other in the next time of the letter. Have a good day and take care of yourselves.